Hello, everyone, and welcome to Policy Manthan. So, like always, we bring to you yet another interesting yet crucial topic for discussion for this week's Policy Manthan. The topic for today is going to be education funding and resource allocation in India, an in-depth analysis of government policies and the need for more strategic allocations. So, as we know that education is the cornerstone for evolution and development, proper allocation of resources in education plays a vital role in shaping the educational sector and in initiating inclusive growth and human capital development. Proper funding in the education sector also determines the quality, accessibility, and equity in education throughout the society. With a nation as vast and diverse as India, ensuring fair and optimal distribution of resources becomes a formidable challenge, yet a necessary pursuit to bridge disparities and provide every child with equal educational opportunities. Therefore, in today's policy manthan, we bring to light the significance of effective resource allocation and finding in the education sector what role the government plays in it and how it can be developed for the better. So, for our first guest speaker today, I would like to call upon Jasmaria to speak about the government policies that deal with education funding and resource allocation in India. Over to you, Jasmaria.
Hello everyone. Hello, I'm audible.
Yeah, you're audible.
Okay. Let's start with the impactful policies that government has introduced. First of all, the relation of central and state government in the funding is the central government is responsible for creating the policies related to education and allocating funds to the state, while the state governments are responsible for the implementing of these policies and managing the funds. And when we look into some of the funds that are created or schemes that introduced by the government are the Sarva Shiksha Abhiyan, Rashtriya Madhyamik Shiksha Abhiyan, and centrally sponsored scheme of teacher education, etc. And these schemes provide financial assistance to states for various aspects of education, including primary education, secondary education, teacher training, and infrastructure development. In addition to these schemes, the central government also provides funding to several autonomous institutions like Indian Institute of Technologies and Indian Institute of Management and National Institute of Technologies. And the other sector we can look into the not only the scheme that have introduced by the state, but also the nation level. There are some policies that are created. For example, at the central level in India, financing of education is primarily managed by the Ministry of Education, and which is responsible for formulating policies related to education and also the teacher training programs. And they are responsible for allocation of funds to various education related schemes and programs. And the central government provides financial assistance to the state for various aspects of education, including primary education, secondary education, teacher training, and infrastructure development through schemes like Sarva Shiksha Abhiyan, Rashtriya Madhyamik Shiksha Abhiyan, and centrally sponsored schemes of teacher training education are among others. And the central government is also given this freedom to implement these policies to the state government. So the state government in India, the financing of education at the state level is primarily responsibility of the state governments. Each state has its own education department and is responsible for funding and administering education within its boundaries. And the primary sources of funding for education at the state level in India includes first of all, that is state budgets. The state government allocation funds for education in their annual budgets are one of the state budgets that we can say about the policies that state governments are introduced. And the next one is grants from central government. The central government also provides grants to the state governments for education. These grants are provided through various schemes such as Sarva Shiksha Abhiyan, Rashtriya Madhyamik Shiksha Abhiyan, and midday meal scheme. And third one is loans from financial institutions. The state government can also take loans from financial institutions such as World Bank and Asian Development Bank to finance education. The fourth one is private funding. Private institutions such as non-profit organizations, philanthropic foundations, and corporate social responsibility initiatives also contribute towards the financing of education in India. However, despite these sources of funding, there are still significant gaps in the availability and quality of education in many states of India, particularly in rural areas. And in recent years, the government has taken steps to increase funding for education and improve access to education for marginalized communities. By saying this, I'm concluding my words. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jasmaria, for sharing your insightful thoughts with us. Next, I would like to call upon Anshita, who is going to speak on the impact of resource allocation on equality in education. Over to you, Anshita.
Hello, am I audible?
Yes, you're audible.
So, hello and good evening to everyone. For today, my topic is impact of resource allocation on equality in education. So, let's first talk about what is resource allocation and what is resource equality. So, in the realm of strategic leadership, resource allocation and optimization is an essential component of education. It involves the decision-making process of determining the most effective use of resources, including time, money, personnel, and facilities, in order to achieve desired outcomes for learning. So, when we talk about resource equity, we are talking about giving all the students the tools they need to succeed, no matter what their race. We don't mean giving everyone the same thing, but giving everyone the resources they need to have the kind of learning experience that set them up for success. This means investing more in students who have bigger learning challenges and organizing resources in a way that help them to learn faster. There may be huge and long-term achievements goals between students and between low income and high income students. But there are schools and districts that are fighting these odds. And it is clear that achievement for everyone and closing these gaps is possible with the right resources. Nationwide, some researchers say that, and findings show that, on average, schools with higher poverty rates have less funding per student for teacher salaries, fewer experienced teachers, and fewer teachers per student compared to schools with their lower poverty rates, even after controlling for cost factor at district level and comparing school with the state. When schools within the states are compared, the pattern is different. Higher poverty rates districts spend more per student with teacher salaries and have more experienced teacher per student, but have lower teacher to student ratio compared to more advantaged schools in the district. In other is reducing average classes in those schools. These findings are consistent with the federal comparability rule, which states that all schools must have equal teacher and student ratio. So resources allocation have a significant impact on equality in education. The availability and distribution of resources within an educational system can either promote or hinder equal opportunities for all students. So here's some resource allocation affects equality in education. The first one is as access to quality education. Unequal allocation of resources can result in disparities in the quality of education that students receive. Schools with fewer resources might struggle to provide up-to-date textbooks and technology, well-maintained facilities, and extracurricular programs. Students in such schools are at disadvantage compared to those in well-funded schools, where they have access to wider range of learning opportunities. Second one is educational facilities. Unequal allocation of resources can lead to disparities in the physical condition of schools. Schools in low-income areas might have outdated infrastructure, inadequate classroom space, and insufficient facilities for sports and extracurricular activities. This can negatively affect the students' overall learning experience and well-being. The third one is teaching quality. Resource allocation impacts the hiring and retention of qualified teachers. Schools with higher fundings can offer competitive salaries and professional development opportunities, attracting skilled educators. In contrast, schools with fewer resources might struggle to retain experienced teachers or provide ongoing training, which can affect the overall quality of teaching and student learning outcomes. Fourth one is support service. Adequate resources allocation is essential for providing services to the student with special needs, English language learners, and students from advantaged background or lower backgrounds. Schools that lack resources might be unable to provide the necessary support uh, and educational inequalities for these vulnerable student population. The fifth one is curriculum and program. So the well-funded schools can offer a diverse range of academic and extracurricular programs that cater the student to different interests and talents. Inequitable resources allocation can limit students' exposure to enriching their experience and their potential. Sixth one is class sizes. Larger class sizes due to inadequate funding can hinder personalized attention from teachers. Smaller class size are often associated with improved student engagement, better teacher-student relationship, and more individualized instruction. Seventh is technology integration. As we know, in today's world, technology is it is important to integrate technology in the education. So, access to modern technology is crucial for 21st century learning. Unequal resource allocation can result in access to computers, the internet, and digital learning tools, putting some students at a disadvantage in terms of digital literacy and for modern workforce. Eighth one is extracurricular activities. School with sufficient resources can offer a variety of extracurricular such as sports, arts, music, and clubs. These activities do contribute to all well-rounded education and personal growth. Ninth is parental engagement. Adequate resources can support initiatives that involve parents and caregivers in the educational process. So, in conclusion, I can say that resource allocation plays a critical role in shaping the educational opportunities and outcomes for the students. Inequality in resources allocation can perpetuate economic disparities, limiting the potential for students from marginalized backgrounds. To promote equality in education, it is essential to advocate for equitable funding policies and strategies that ensure all students have access to high quality education, regardless of their socio-economic status. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Anshika, for providing such a solution-oriented perspective to resource allocation in the education sector. So, for the next speaker, we have with us Dipankar, and he's going to speak on a very interesting idea from ordinary to extraordinary, Delhi Sarkari School Evolution. Over to you, Dipankar. It's a very interesting title, by the way.
Am I visible and audible?
Yes, you are.
First of all, a very good evening to all of you. This is a very sincere effort by sarkarischool.in. My today's topic will focus more on Delhi school development, Delhi Sarkari school development model. And the reason why I chose this is that if we keep our political affiliations and other events aside, we all would agree that Delhi schools have in the government, Delhi government has done an incredible job in Delhi Sarkari schools. A competition can be Kerala school, Kerala government schools. So I recently read this book, Shiksha, by Manish Sisodia sir. He was education minister then, and he has done a very good job in education. So first thing I want to say is the budget allocation. For any effort we do in Sarkari school, we need budget. And governments and governments will always say that there is shortage of budget and everything. But I believe, as far as I have seen, if the governments have the intent, there are enough funds for Sarkari school. In 3 years itself, every Sarkari school of India can be developed. So first we come to budget. In Delhi, Delhi government has allocated around 25 to 30% of their budget for education. And this is a huge difference from other states. So governments will have to allocate a good budget if we want real improvement. Campaign design and posters, they won't help much. As I come to the second chapter, that is teachers. Now, in Delhi school, we all have heard stories, but in Delhi school, Delhi government has not removed a single teacher in the entire state in government school. They have not removed a single teacher. The teachers are the same. What they have done is they have paid respect to that teacher, which is much needed in this profession. And related to this, which I have observed myself, when I was in class 12, our farewell was going on. Most of the students from class 11, 10, 12, they were paying respect only to the senior teachers. They were paying respect only to the teachers who have taught them from class 9 to 12. And I really felt very bad for that, because I have seen teachers in the primary classes, they work really hard. And it's one of the toughest job to uh, handle 40 students in a class, handle and teach 40 students in a class below the age 10. So respect should be paid to the teacher, their due respect, and especially to the primary teachers, because they are mostly being ignored, that they only teach primary classes, they don't have much qualifications. They might have less qualifications, okay, but the hard work they do, that needs a good respect. Uh, then if I come to the third chapter, that is mentor teacher, a new tradition. Actually, in Delhi schools, government has allocated, government education minister himself has written a very emotional letter to all the teachers, that you are doing a job from for say class from time 7 in the morning to 12 in the afternoon, or 1 2 in the afternoon. But if you are willing enough, if you love your Sarkari school, if you want to improve this Sarkari school system, you can apply for a mentor teacher role. You will not be paid a single ounce more for this job, but you have to work 24/7. That was a very emotional letter. I think it's included in the book. And many teachers turned up for that. And that is a transformative thing. Like we see in corporates, they pay a high amount, but employees in the corporate, they work like 24/7. Messages are coming at 12. This culture is developed through mentor teacher in Sarkari school who handles many schools itself. What problem is going on in this school? If a child is having any problem, that is being discussed at night 1 o'clock in Sarkari school. No one could ever imagine this. Then the next chapter is about principals. In most of the schools, principal is mostly busy in administrative work. Delhi government has freed them up from all the administrative work. They have appointed a babu or an administrative officer, Sarkari officer for that. That principals have only have to look upon school development, education, academics only. Academic work a babu can do. He is well qualified for that, and principal's job is limited, so she can devote her time for that intent. Next is one second. Next is parents participation with dignity. They hold a big event, like PTM is very common in every school. We have studied all. So PTM is very common in Sarkari schools also. Somewhere you can say it's not that much, but PTM is largely PTM is there in every Sarkari school. But what they have done is they have turned this PTM, parents teacher meeting, into a big event. Like there will be tents and children will be showering flowers for their parents and other parents who are coming, and teacher will give them a detailed report of their child. For example, if we say, if a mother is insisting her child, she is in class 9, insisting her girl child that you work in a home, you cut these vegetables, you cook for the family, that will be more beneficial. But if in a parents teacher meeting a teacher explains to the parents that no, your child is very good in studies, she can go very high in through education and academics. So condition will change. When we talk to parents, they feel participated. They will then trust the Sarkari school, because we all know the reputation of Sarkari school. One second. Lastly, I would say these are basic things. Budget allocation should be there, but the rest of the things, they did not need that much money. And lastly, I would conclude with, I heard a horrendous incident today. I think a video went viral on Twitter about a UP school, UP Sarkari school. That is so horrendous that I won't even mention the details. But that was the clear display of discrimination in a classroom by an appointed teacher. And that should never be repeated anywhere in this country or anywhere in the world, I will say. So hate will only lead us to darkness. Hate can never be a way forward. So by saying this, I am concluding. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dipankar, for highlighting the indispensable roles of our teachers in government schools and how better modules can be implemented for constructive growth. And of course, adding to your last point, schools should be a safe space for every student, and it should be an inclusive space, of course. So, yeah, the incident that took place today, it is horrendous, and I can't even imagine what the child must be going through. And that is exactly why better allocation of funding and more evolution is required in this field. So, moving on, for our next speaker, we have Nishta, and she's going to speak of the most impactful government policies. Over to you, Nishta.
So, good evening, everyone. Myself, Mr. Goyal, and today I am discussing on the topic most impactful government policies. So, here we go. The landscape of education in India has been significantly shaped by a series of impactful government policies that aim to address critical challenges, enhance accessibility, and elevate the overall quality of education across various levels. These policies have spanned several decades and have focused on different aspects of the education system, ranging from elementary to higher education. By examining these policies, we can gain insight into the evolution of educational priorities and strategies within the country. In this discussion, we will delve into some of the most influential government policies that left a lasting mark on India's educational framework. These policies reflect the nation's commitment to providing equitable and holistic learning opportunities while adapting to the changing needs of society and the economy. So, my first policy is the National Policy on Education of 1986 and its revised version in 1992. So, what is it? It were pivotal milestones in the history of Indian education. These policies were formulated with the overreaching goal sorry, of modernizing and transforming the education system to meet the evolving needs of the country by emphasizing key aspects like universal education system. It aimed to provide free and compulsory education to children, addressing the issue of uneducated equal access to education, eradication of illiteracy, and enhancement of education quality. These policies set the stage for significant reform that followed. Now, the second one, Sarva Siksha Abhiyan, which this policy was formed in 2000, initiated in 2000, emerged as a transformative force in India's education landscape, driven by the vision of universal elementary education, with the focus on children aged 6 to 14. SSA aimed to provide every child, regardless of socio-economic background, with free and quality education. By emphasizing community involvement, SSA fostered a sense of collective responsibility for education, but also improved learning outcomes. This initiative set the stage for subsequent policies and legislation, reinforcing the foundation for accessible and equitable education in India. Now, the next one is Rashtriya Madhyamik Shiksha Abhiyan, that was initiated in 2009 and aimed at enhancing access to quality secondary education and increasing the enrollment rate in secondary school. It focused on improving infrastructure, teacher training, and curriculum development at the secondary level. Now, the next one is Right to Education Act, which was initiated in 2009. This landmark legislation made education a fundamental right for children between 6 and 14 years of age. It mandated free and compulsory education and set certain standards for infrastructure, teacher qualification, and people-teacher ratio in schools. Now, the next one is National Skill Development Policy of 2009. So, this policy aimed at creating a skilled workforce to meet the demands of industry and economic growth. It emphasized vocational education and training to enhance employability and promote lifelong learning. And in this year, there is also one policy like National Mission on Education through Information and Communication Technology. This initiative focused on leveraging technology to enhance the quality of education and aim to provide e-learning resources, digital content, and connectivity to universities and colleges. Now, the next one is Study Webs of Active Learning for Young Aspiring Minds of 2014. This is basically an online platform which offers free courses from school to university level across various disciplines, and it aims to provide quality education and bridge gaps in access to education, especially for remote and marginalized learners, and it is very helpful for all of us. Now the next one is Atal Innovation Mission of 2016. It aims to foster innovation and entrepreneurship among Indian youth through Atal Tinkering Labs (ATLs) in school, AICs for startups, and challenges for innovation solutions. AIM empowers students and communities to creatively address pressing challenges. Its impact lies in cultivating a culture of innovation, nurturing startups, and positioning India as a global innovation hub by leveraging the potential of its young minds. So now the last one, that is the new education policy of 2020. NEP basically, and this topic is also given as our research to do research, and this is a very interesting. So what is it? It represents a comprehensive and transformative reform in India's education system, designed to adapt to contemporary needs. It basically focuses on holistic and multidisciplinary learning, emphasizing critical thinking and creativity. It promotes early childhood education, a flexible curriculum, and multidisciplinary education at the undergraduate level. NEP also introduced technology integration, vocational education, and a flexible assessment system. The policy aims to enhance research, encourage innovation, and create a more inclusive and equitable education system by aligning education with employability and societal needs. NEP 2020 envisions a progressive and globally competitive Indian education landscape. So, here I conclude India's journey in the realm of education has been marked by a series of impactful government policies that have left an inedible mark on the nation's educational landscape. These policies have addressed critical issues from universal access to quality enhancement, skill development, and innovation integration. The evolution from National Policy on Education of 1986 to Comprehensive New Education Policy of 2020 showcase the nation's commitment to adopt its educational framework to meet the changing needs of society and the global economy. As India continues to stride forward, these policies will serve as guiding lights, steering the course towards a more equitable and global competitive education system that empowers every individual and contributes to the nation's growth and development. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Nishka, for sharing such well-structured factual information on the present government policies in the education sector. For our last speaker today, I'd like to call upon Shivam to share the impact of resource allocation in itself. Over to you, Shivam.
Hello, ma'am. There's some issue at my end with the camera, so I won't be able to switch it on today. But from the next time, I'll try my best to fix and resolve this. I'll begin with my write up.
Please go ahead.
It's a very short one. Hi. So, good morning, good evening, everyone. I would want to talk about something very vital as to how the way we share resources, which can either make our society or it can break it, making it unfair and unequal. Resource allocation means deciding who gets what, and this decision has a big impact on fairness. Equality is about making sure everyone has what they need to succeed, not just giving everyone the same things. It is also important because it helps people to overcome challenges and disadvantages. Resource allocation is not a new concept, and it has been fundamentally a part of human society for centuries, whether it is in the form of food, land, education, or economic opportunities. However, in our modern and interconnected world, the consequences of resource allocation decisions are more far-fetching than ever before. So, what is equity and why is it so important? Equity is not the same as equality, and this is very important for us to understand. While equality means giving everyone the same resources and opportunities, equity is about ensuring that everyone has what they need to reach a level playing field. It's about addressing the unique challenges and disadvantages that different individuals and communities face. Now, I would like to discuss the impact of resource allocation on achieving equity as to how different factors can interplay together and help us achieve equity. So, I would be discussing around seven factors. The first one being education. So, resource allocation in education has a really profound effect on a society's future. When educational resources are distributed unevenly, it perpetuates disparities in knowledge, skills, and opportunities. By investing in quality education for all, we can empower the individuals to break the cycle of poverty and continue meaningfully into the society. The next point is healthcare. And I think access to healthcare is a fundamental human right. And without access to proper healthcare, there will be unequal resource allocation, which will obviously lead to disparities in healthcare outcomes. Those with fewer means and resources would often receive very less or inferior care, leading to poorer health and shorter lifespans. A more equitable distribution of healthcare resources can definitely improve the well being of all the citizens. Now, coming down to economic opportunities, I think economic opportunities are often thought by resource allocation decisions, but limited access to capital, job opportunities, and training programs can hinder the economic advancement of the marginalized community. I think equitable resource allocation in the economy can also boost innovation and create a more inclusive workforce. The next point is environmental justice. Resource allocation also plays a role in environmental equity. Low income communities and communities of color, that is the blacks or browns, often bear the brunt of environmental pollution and climate change impacts. Fair resource allocation can definitely address these injustices by investing in clean technologies and protecting the vulnerable communities. The next point I'd like to speak about is social services. Adequate access to social services such as housing, childcare, and mental health support is critical for overall well being. Uneven allocation of these resources can perpetuate poverty and inequality. Equitable distribution can therefore provide a safety net for those who are in need of these social services. The next point of discussion would be infrastructure. And the allocation of infrastructure resources projects can shape communities for generations. Neglected neighborhoods may lack the essential infrastructure like clean water, public transportation, and safe housing. And prioritizing the equitable infrastructure development can revitalize these communities and promote social cohesion. The last, but the final point which I would like to discuss is crisis response. And we must have seen that in times of crisis, such as earthquakes, pandemics, etc., the resource allocation decision becomes very difficult and critical. Equitable distribution of resources like vaccines, disaster relief, and emergency services can save lives and prevent further disparities from emerging. So, all in all, I would like to conclude by saying that resource allocation is not a mere administrative task, but it shapes the society's very fabric. If we want to build a more fairer and a more cohesive world, I would say we must consider the impact of resource allocation on achieving equity in all aspects of life. As citizens, policymakers, and leaders, it is our responsibility to advocate for and implement equity resource allocation practices. By doing so, we can create a society where every individual, regardless of their background, has a fair chance to succeed. Remember, achieving equity is not just a goal, it's a path to a brighter and a more prosperous future for all. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Shivam, for sharing your thoughts with us. So, as we come to the end of today's policy marathon, I would like to ask if there is anything else that anybody wants to add to today's discussion, or if there are any questions that any of you want to ask to our speakers. All right. So, if there are no more questions, I hope that today's discussion had a very constructive impact on all of us as well as our viewers. So with this, we end today's Policy Manthan, and I hope to meet you for next week's Policy Manthan with yet another interesting topic. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So Lishma, you can end the live stream.